Hey boys, there's two of me right now. There's about to me. So this is today's lesson. So if you watch the video above, you know what you need to have in front of you. You should have a sheet that looks like this. You should have had this out kind of by you last night as you were finishing the chapter and doing this organizer. And you should have this page. Now I'm going to go really briefly through them. If you go further down the slide, you know that by 1 o'clock today, I'm going to ask that you turn in your notes. An answer to this question, and this needs to be filled out by 1 o'clock. By Monday, when you see me again, you need to have read chapter 4 and done the class notes for chapter 4. Okay, so let's get started with last night's reading notes. Again, I'm just going to go through this quickly because now you should be doing these by yourself. And I'm going to start collecting these to see what you've done before we come to class. Okay, so for this one, we had furrows and enrolls. So the sentence where furrow showed up was, the furrows that came up to the 2-lane road looked like giant legs. He's passing by a field of lettuce, and the furrows looked like giant legs that were like chasing after them. You also know from context, if you looked back earlier, it mentioned there was lettuce fields and cabbage being grown. So I'm going to be interested to see, what do you think a furrow might be? It has something to do with gardening. Somehow it looks like a leg. So I'm thinking about, what do legs look like? So what might the definition of a furrow be based on its context in the book? And again, this is found in chapter 3 as he's getting on the bus. About the word enrolled, his brother manages to enroll Panchito, enroll me in first grade. So now we kind of know how old Panchito, the boy who's narrating it, is. Enrolled me in first grade. So once he enrolled him, he was in first grade. So what does enroll mean? Write down your definitions of what you think. And then again, I'm going to be looking for, did you find another vocab word to go in there? What is historical fiction? So I want you guys to write this down with me. If you need to pause the video, I know that I write fast. So what is historical fiction? Think in your brain. When you read a historical fiction book, what is that? So write this definition with me. Historical fiction is a type of genre that includes, so remember, genre could be fiction, nonfiction, fantasy, mystery. Those are all different types of genres. That includes some elements of fiction. Fiction means made up, not real. Some elements of fiction but it takes place in a real time or setting, or both, and or has real characters. So characters that actually existed or who are very similar to characters that did exist. So that's what historical fiction has. Some elements of fiction, but some elements of things that actually happened in it. And then what can we learn from historical fiction? So when we read this book, which is historical fiction, when we read books like Chains for my 6th graders, I'm not quite sure what you 7th graders read, but when you read historical fiction, what can you learn from books like that? Write a few words, a sentence. What can you learn from historical fiction books? What are we learning from this book? And then this was your homework last night. If you read the instructions, you needed to read the excerpt. Excerpt just means part, a section, small section of From Harvesting Hope that we read on day 1. So that looks like this. Zoom in. So you should have had this out in front of you. Now I did a lot of this work already, so I have things underlined in here. If you want to pause the video, you can pay attention to what I underlined. Because when I underlined things, I was like, that reminds me of something we've read in our book. And so I have things that are underlined in here that you might find helpful for filling this in. I'll share some of my first observations with you, though. So both means this is the same. In what ways were the book that we're reading and that article the same? And the different, what is unique to Cesar Chavez and what is unique to Panchito and his story? So for both of them, I found the first thing I noticed that was different is we learned that Cesar Chavez lived on a big ranch in Arizona when he was young or as a child. So Cesar Chavez started out with a lot. He owned a big ranch, lived on there. It was his own crops. Whereas Panchito, our main character in the circuit, he lived at El Rancho Blanco in Mexico. And so he was not, El Rancho Blanco wasn't his farm. He didn't own it. And they're also, he's not in America. Arizona's in the US. Panchito starts off in Mexico. So they start off in very different places with very different fortunes. So Cesar Chavez started off with a lot and he loses it, whereas Panchito doesn't start off with much. And so that's what really pushes them. However, what is similar is that eventually both Cesar and Panchito, both, and you can put this here, you can put it down, you organize it, what makes sense for you. Both families go to California for F-O-R, for work and a better life. So we've got some differences, which I noted here. What's unique to Cesar Chavez? What was unique to Panchito? And then, just not super clear. Sorry, guys. There we go. What's unique, and then what is the same? So when you turn this in, what are some other similarities you notice? What are some differences? Pay particular attention to this last paragraph when he talks about school. Here at the end, we learned a lot about what Panchito thought about school in chapter 3. How does Cesar Chavez feel about school? And what were some similarities that he and Panchito had? But what were some differences? How did they think about school differently? Because there are some big differences there as well. So you need to find at least 1, 2, 3 more. Maybe it's a similarity here, a difference here, another similarity down here. Fill this in for me. And maybe for some rows, it's just similarities. Maybe there aren't differences, so you don't need to fill in these boxes, okay? So turn this in, and then your question on the back. Once you've done all the thinking work, you do all the thinking work here. Then you do the easy part. You take your thinking work. We went back and forth between the two texts, your book and Harvesting Hope, and this is chapter 3 of your book. And now you have this question to answer. How are Panchito and Cesar's experiences similar? How are they different? Use evidence. Okay, so that's the question you need to answer. So you might start off with a transitional phrase. So to begin, Panchito and Caesar's experiences are similar because both families go to California for work and a better life. So notice how I used my organizer to help me write my very first sentence. Okay, so there's my first sentence already. If you heard that, you can replay that, get that sentence again. Maybe you found some more similarities. In addition, so I'm just going to leave a list of transition words for you. To begin, in addition, although, however, how are they different? So then you might want to have a new paragraph. This might be your second paragraph. How are they different? You might say, in conclusion, it might be at the end, you might say, in contrast to each other, Caesar did this while Panchito's family did this. Secondly, so you can always look up transition words, but use lots of transition words in this. And I'll ask for you to turn this in. Again, call me if you are having trouble. If you're not quite sure what to do, my number's on Google Classroom. You can call me and I will answer and I will walk you through. So if you need any more help with this, you can replay this video, listen, you may call me. But by 1 o'clock today, I want you to turn in a picture of your notes, this, and informational writing prompts. Let's look at this quickly. So we looked at yesterday this prompt. The Circuit is a book about a migrant family. Throughout the book, the family encounters, or encounters means like they go through many hardships, setbacks, and struggles. Hardship, setbacks, and struggles, these are all synonyms for each other. So a hardship and a setback are the same thing as a struggle. So how does the author, we talked about this word how, why how is so important. It's not why, but how. Does the author help you understand what it was like to be in a migrant family? Use evidence from the book to support your answer. So I want you guys today to start thinking. This is not, this is due at 1, just your thinking work, but we'll talk about this together on Monday. So don't worry about doing this incorrectly. Give it your best shot, call me, and we'll go over it Monday. My 6th graders know this acronym, HIT. So in your introduction, think about, okay, how am I gonna hook? How am I gonna pull my readers in? So we always drew like a picture of like a hook. And there's little fishy, which is your reader. How are you gonna hook your reader in? You wanna grab attention. So the hook can look like, it can be a question. It could be a fact. Your hook could be something about our book, like Panchito's life, that you found fascinating. Find a way to draw your reader in. Intro means you introduce your topic. So in the book, The Circuit, so you want to introduce your topic in the book. So our big topic is the struggles or the plights. What are migrant workers going through, and how does our author convey that or describe that to us? So introduce your topic, migrant workers and their struggle. And then thesis. What do you want to tell me? In what way? How does the author show us how migrant workers struggle? Show us that. And so I don't want you don't just need to come up with that or make that up. I've got a word bank down here and I want you to look through that. Pick 2 of these because these words might help you identify the techniques that the author used. Did the author use descriptive language? And can you find examples of that? Did the author really emphasize or make important the setting? Did the author use conflict? A theme, maybe? Character? Dialogue? So you have 2 body paragraphs where you need to tell me that. So maybe you pick 2 of these words, 2 techniques that you think, oh, like I saw a lot of descriptive language in the book, and that descriptive language described to me the tough situation they're in. She used a lot of imagery and really painted a picture of what the baby looked like when it was neglected for a bit. And that descriptive language helped me understand the struggles migrant worker families go through. So you might make your first body paragraph be about the author's use of descriptive language, and your second paragraph be about the setting. The author made the setting, the way the author described the setting and the location of the different places that they went to is how the author helped us understand their struggles. And so then your thesis, you would say, the author helps us understand what it was like to be in a migrant family by using descriptive language and the setting. Okay, so we all know a thesis is tough. So before you get here, maybe plan out what are the 2 techniques that you're going to use, that you're going to focus on as we finish reading. Okay, because I think as Marquise or somebody in 6th grade pointed out, a good key word in this is throughout the book. It's not just in chapter 3 or chapter 2 or chapter 1, but throughout the whole book, have the author do that. So this gives you chances where early on to start paying attention to your 2 techniques that you pick. And then conclusion. Conclusions are tough to write, but you're going to restate your intro, and we'll get to that. Just kind of jot out some ideas. How might you restate your thesis? How might you tell your reader, I conclude it in a nice way that helps your reader understand what you're trying to say. So jot out your plans here. If you can think of something you want to do for a 3rd paragraph, you may, but we blocked it off because it's not optional. That's totally optional. So I want you to at least pick 2. Call me if you need help with this. Again, don't stress about it. If this whole thing intimidates you, this shouldn't, because this should look really familiar. But if you're really unsure how to tackle this, I really want you to call me. So I'm going to write my number again. Call me at 239-910-6822. And I'll talk you through this and we'll get this turned in. I'm so sorry I can't be there live with you guys today. I miss you, but I will see you back on Monday, okay? So before 1 o'clock, this needs to be turned in, your answer to this and your notes. And by Monday, you need to have read, let me pull it up. By Monday, you need to have read chapter 4 and have done the student work, okay? So this will be posted on Google Classroom, my read aloud of it. Okay, guys, I will see you Monday. Goodbye.